Okay, this is Geometry 5.2. Just wanted to make a quick video on these practice problems. Start with number 1 here. It says we need to solve for x, and each figure is a parallelogram. So we've got segment QR is 10, and PS is -6 plus 2x. But we know from our first theorem that if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its opposite sides are congruent. So if these opposite sides are congruent, we can just set them up equal to each other and solve. So 10 is equal to -6 plus 2x, and solve for x. So we do that. If I want to get rid of this -6, we do the opposite. We add 6 on both sides. This side cancels out. I'm left with 16 is equal to 2x. Divide by 2, and I'm left with x is equal to 8. All right, number 2, it looks like you're going to use the theorem that states that these opposite, the opposite sides are congruent, right? So just make sure you're using this sheet. If you have to rip off the sheet so you can look at it, you should do so. So these are opposite sides, also congruent. Go ahead and set them up equal to each other and solve for x. You have these consecutive or adjacent sides. Now this one's a little bit different. These are clearly not congruent, right? So you need to remember that these consecutive angles are supplementary, so they add up to equal 180. So you just need to do 115 plus 2x plus 65 is equal to 180 and solve. Right? And then we have our diagonal problems. So the key here is to make sure we're labeling. So CE, that's this whole diagonal from here to here is 46. And GE, so that's just this piece here, is 3x minus 10. Okay, so you could do this a few different ways. You could cut this in half. So if you wanted, you could say 3x minus 10 over here as well, because we know that CG and GE are congruent. Or you could say, well, GE is half of CE, so why don't I just cut this in half and do 3x minus 10 is equal to 23. Probably a lot easier than doing it the other way. Okay, how about number 6? RH, so that is this piece here, is 12, and FH, so again, this whole thing from here to here is 13x minus 2. So what I would do here is say, well, 12, if RH is 12, well, then so is FR. So I can do 12 and 12, which is 24, is equal to 13x minus 2, and go ahead and solve for x. Okay. All right, so 7 and 8 look pretty straightforward. You guys can solve those. Maybe I'll set one up for you. So we have XE. So XE, let's label this part here, just right here. From x to e is 2x plus 2. And EV, this part here, I guess I shouldn't use the same color. From e to v is 3x minus 4. And we know that these diagonals bisect each other, so we know that these are congruent, okay? So if they're congruent, you can just set them up equal to each other. So 2x plus 2 is equal to 3x minus 4, and you go ahead and solve. Remember, I would just go ahead and always try to eliminate the smaller of the two variables or coefficients first. So we have the 2 and the 3. I'm going to try to get rid of the 2. That way I'm dealing with a positive coefficient. So I'm left with 2 is equal to 3 minus 2x, which is just 1x minus 4. I want to isolate x, so I need to add 4 on both sides. And I'm left with 6 is equal to x. And you're all done. Okay. Number 8, again, just label it out. Z, xz, so that's the whole thing from here all the way to there is 28. And bz, just this piece, is 2x minus 6. So what you need to recognize is that bz and bx are the same. So again, you could do 2x minus 6, and you could square it and set it up equal to 28, or you could recognize that xz, the whole thing, right, is, bz is half of that. So you could cut this in half, probably the easiest way to set it up, but I'll leave that up to you. All right, let's move on, back page here. So pretty similar to what we were doing before. We just have a little bit extra steps here. So what we need to recognize is that angle W, which is kind of made up of these two expressions, and angle X, those are going to be consecutive angles. Okay, so these consecutive angles are going to be supplementary. So you're just going to understand that they add up to 180. So it's going to be a little bit of a longer equation, but it's just going to be 36x minus 1 plus 29x plus 1 plus 50 is equal to 180, and you solve. Right? Combine like terms. How many x's do we have? 65. Add up the constants. We have -1 plus 1, so those will just cancel out. So it's just going to be plus 50 is equal to 180. Subtract 50 on both sides. You're left with, oops, forget the x there. 65x is equal to 130. And we just divide by 65, divide by 65. We're left with x is equal to 2. However, this one, it's asking to find the measure of v. Okay. Oh, this one is a real stinker of a problem because it asked for the measure of v. So I just did all this work to find x, and I didn't really need to because we have x, so we could plug that in to find the angle of w, right? We could put them in for both of these expressions and figure out w. However, if we just recognize that angle v and angle x are opposite, right? These are opposite angles, so we didn't actually have to do any math here. The measure of angle v is 50. All right, so that's a little frustrating. You could have gotten out of a lot of work if you just recognize that a little quicker. Number 10, the measure of angle EFG. All right, so what are we looking for? EFG. So we need to find this angle right here, which is made up of this expression here plus 26. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is find x. Okay, and we can do that by recognizing that this angle here and this angle here, those are consecutive angles. So they're consecutive angles. That means they add up to 180. So we can just make another big long equation. X plus 120 plus 26 plus 2x plus 34 all have to add up to equal 180. Combine like terms, you get 3x. Combine the numbers, which is actually 180. Get the x by itself, you subtract 180, subtract 180. You're left with 3x is equal to 0. Divide by 3, x is equal to 0. So now we've solved for x, but again, we need to find the measure of EFG. So what we have to do here is plug the x into this expression. So 2 times 0 plus 34. Well, 2 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 34 is 34. Okay? So this is essentially gone. So this is 34 plus 26. So it looks like the measure of EFG is 26 plus 34, which is 60. All right. Pretty similar, 11 and 12, or at least 11 is pretty similar to the ones we were doing. On the other side, I'll leave you with that one. The measure of angle G is what we need to find for number 12. Here we aren't given any information, okay, but it's not going to be as easy as number 9. We can recognize that angle E and angle G are opposite angles, so they will be congruent, okay? But I still need to find x, okay? So again, we're going to recognize E and F. They're consecutive. So you're going to set up this expression plus 44 plus 4x plus 18. They all have to add up to equal 180. You solve that equation, you figure out x, plug that x back in here to figure out E, and then you know G is the same measure. Okay? 13, pretty similar. 14, pretty similar. Let's see if there's anything new here with 15. Angle UA, or not angle, but segment UA is 3x plus 3. AS is 4x minus 4. Yeah, nothing new here. We know that those, the diagonals are bisected, so these are both going to be the same. They're congruent. So you can just set them up equal to each other and solve pretty much the same as the ones on the front. So hopefully this video helped. If you need more help, come see me on a Google Meet. Good luck.